It's all happening. And you go into the doctor, and, well, a few days later, they come and take all your guns. When you try to buy a gun, they say, well, you can't have one. And joining us is David Sarti of Doomsday Preppers on Nat Geo. Very popular individual out there, tens of millions a week that watch him, but he can't own a gun. No judge, no jury. Guilty until proven slave. Joining us is David. David, go ahead. Tell us what happened to you, my friend.
Well, I heard you talking about the veteran stuff. I don't know if you can see that right there. That's called an honorable discharge. I do have one of those. But anyway, I'm going to try to edit down this. Last year, back in, say, November, I thought I was having a heart attack. I was having chest pains, felt like I was suffocating. So I went to my doctor, and he referred me to this cardiologist. So that cardiologist sent me to some tests at a hospital. A month and a half goes by, and I haven't heard nothing from this guy. So I called him up, made an appointment. I went there, and he said, well, they didn't see nothing wrong with my heart. And I told him, I said, well, whatever was wrong, I said, look, this was, I felt like I was suffocating, and this was the closest I ever came to feel like committing suicide. Well, that started it off. He said, are you going to commit suicide? I said, no, I'm not going to commit suicide. I'm not suffocating. I said, suffocation, drowning and stuff like that.
You're saying it was a figure of speech. It was a figure of speech.
Right. If I was, it's like the people that jumped out of the World Trade Center when it was burning, what, you're going to burn, you're going to jump. You got a choice. But anyway.
Point is, you told him, I'm not going to commit suicide, man.
Right. I told him flat out I'm not. And he says, well, when we could stick these tubes in you, he's going to do some kind of trach and make it so you could breathe. I says, if I have to live with tubes in me, I'd just as soon, not get treated and go on. And, well, then he said, well, that sounds like suicidal to me. So I said, no, it's not. And then he says, well, he mentioned that it wasn't my decision. And me being a libertarian, that flew all over me. So I proceeded to get...
Oh, not your decision. You will take the vaccines. You will eat GMO. You will take the fluoride. You will do what the little secret police officer, just like Hitler, hired all the doctors to work for him. Oh.
I even said, I said, look, everybody at one time or another thinks about it. And he said, well, I've never thought about it. And I called him, basically told him it was full of donkey poo. So... anyway, that went on, and finally he said,
he was full of Bill Clinton.
Yeah. He said, you need to go talk to somebody at the emergency room. I said, I don't have time. I can't afford that. Emergency room, I got animals to feed on the farm.
You said you're full of Janet Reno. You're full of Janet Napolitano.
Right.
He says, get over there to the emergency room. And he said, you're full of the federal government. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then, I said, look, I don't have time for this. I have animals. I got dogs locked up in the house and everything else. So I went out in the hall, and I heard him calling the sheriff's office. So I skedaddled, and I went home. And maybe
again,
10
they're
minutes.
just looking because the government's turning them into spies. And coffee shop people are told folks that are buying cash, call the FBI on them. That's an actual FBI flyer. I'm not joking, folks. I got a video up on Infowars.com about it. My point here is, you're like simply saying, I'm having chest pains. God, this is horrible. It's like, maybe I want to kill myself. It's so horrible. You're not going to kill yourself. No, it's a figure of speech. We're going to stick tubes down you and trach you. Well, that's crazy. I'm walking around here in your hospital. I'm saying I've got pain here. And then he's like, well, this is just the way it is. And look, I've had allergy attacks so bad when I made a mistake and rode a bike long distance, like 20 miles, about 5 years ago with my buddy. I went on this long distance, 20-mile, a lot of it mountain biking, while the cedar was popping, or the mountain juniper is what it really is. We call it cedar. And I'm driving home, and I feel like I'm having a heart attack. I can't breathe. Then I get a migraine. And I went to the doctor the next day, and they said, you had a complete allergy attack. This has happened to a lot of people. After I explained I'd been exercising, I'd smelled so much of that cedar that it just coated everything, including my lungs and everything. But I guess I deserve to have my guns taken. Continuing, so you go out there in the hall. He is now calling the sheriff.
Right. Well, I heard about the sheriff, so I left, and I went home. And anyway, about 10 minutes after I got here, the sheriff deputies come up, and the logic of sending somebody with a gun after somebody that's going to commit suicide fails me. But I went out there and talked to them, and they told me that I was going to have to come with them. And finally, he said, "Well, you go to the hospital, they'll turn you loose, and he'll even give me a ride back home." So I said, all right, let's go get this straightened out. So they didn't cuff me or nothing. They put me in the car, and they took me to the hospital. Well, I talked to this other woman, I guess she was a doctor, after sitting there for about an hour, and talked to her, and I signed an agreement saying, look, I'm not going to commit suicide and all like that. So an hour more goes by. And then, I was like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then I says, well, look, I'm a prisoner. I considered myself a prisoner, and I stopped cooperating. So I said, no, you're not getting no more blood pressures. I'm not talking to you no more. I want an attorney. And as soon as I said that, that's when they put me in the mental institution at McFarland for observation. And
again, just like the Soviets and the Nazis and the Communist Chinese, every dictatorship in the last 100 years has used the mental system as a way to get around due process that everybody fought for. And, if there's a crazy guy on the street corner who thinks he's Joan of Arc, they let him run around with feces running down their legs, drinking Schlitz malt liquor all day. They could care less if you commit suicide. They could care less if you're really crazy. They use it to harass people politically, and I've seen this so many times. So continue. Next, you get your guns taken, correct?
Well, no, they took my rights. I found out about it by accident. I mean, I just got the letter saying I had to surrender my handgun permit, but I found out about it because I had been saving up for a Glock 21. And I got out a week later. I had the money. I got my YouTube money, and I said, I'm going to go get my Glock. I got turned down. So then I did an immediate appeal right there as soon as I got turned down, and that's when I found out about the paper. You have been declared a mental defective. And by the way,
the Federal 68 Gun Control Act doesn't give them the power to do that. You had not been adjudicated mentally ill or committed, but they just color of law do it. It's felons under the 68 Gun Control Act that can't own guns, but it's just like color of law, how they ban importation of guns to this country. It's not a law, but like Obama promised to do to Sarah Brady 2 years ago, he said, don't worry, I'm going to get their guns under the radar, like shipping guns to Mexico to blame the Second Amendment.
Well, basically, I was put in there. I feel they put me in there because I made them mad because I said I was being a prisoner, and I called them a bunch of, basically I told them they were Gestapo at the hospital. Oh, we're doctors, they say. You're not a prisoner. I said, can I go? They said, no. I said, I'm a prisoner, and you're keeping me here against my will. So,
they take people's kids that don't take vaccines at birth, even though there's no law. They are a bunch of authoritarian scum. I have witnessed it myself. They might be a nice person to play golf with or go to church with, but they're on these little power trips, and our rights mean jack diddly squat to them.
Well, see, that's when they wanted, when I got to the hospital, I got this other little doctor that wants to give me these things called Zeprahodone, whatever it is. It's a psychotropic drug, and I refuse that. So that was another black mark because I was refusing their drug.
You got to take their deadly chemical weapons or you're evil.
Yeah, so...
Which, by the way, those psychotropic drugs on the insert say they make you crazy and make you commit suicide.
Oh, that's what it
took us years to get them.
Yeah, I got the printout of the drug immediately from the nurse's station, and I read all the stuff, and that's one of the things it says. It says,
but see, because you're the type that would read a drug insert, you're the bad man. You're the terrorist. You're the problem. We'll be right back. We'll give people your YouTube channel, and I'm going to get you on later this week for a full hour to talk about how we support you, because if we don't hang together, we hang separate. If they can trump up charges to take your Second Amendment, they can do it to anybody. I'm Alex Jones, live from the Lakewood Theater in Austin, Texas. Well, we're broadcasting from Austin, Texas. In Dallas, Texas, I'm evil. I need to have my guns taken. I got the city wrong. Now, listen, David, your case is the same thing that millions of Americans are putting up with every year. But because you are prominent and a well-spoken guy, I want to try to help you out as best we can. I want to get you back on the show for a full hour so you can really break all this down and take calls and hear from other victims of this extrajudicial medical tyranny. But in the 4 or 5 minutes we've got left with you, you've got the floor. Where are you now? What else happened? You've been calling for help. You haven't gotten any. Your Second Amendment's just gone. There's no judge. There's no jury. The FBI instant check won't let you have your Second Amendment.
Well, I'm in the middle of a bunch of appeals. I talked to a Gun Owners of America attorney, and he said what I should do by myself. And then I got this other letter from the state. See, there was a bunch of petitions going to the governor. Somebody else, one of my viewers, started it, and apparently it got the governor's attention, which then sent me immediately to the Department of Safety, which then immediately sent out a letter asking for my carry permit. Now, I've had a carry permit since they began. I mean, I've never been in any trouble.
By the way, you don't need a permit for your right to own a gun.
No, it was the thought behind the permit thing was they just wanted people to know, in other words, you had to go out and show that you could actually shoot one and hit the target. That's what it was.
Sure. No, I understand all that, but so like, where is it going now?
So right now with that, oh man, it's going to be more expensive than I thought. I thought it was just going to be we'll get an attorney and we'll fight it and get me off the nicks. Well, with this latest letter, that means it's going to be at the federal and the state and the local level. So it's going to be going through 3 separate courts in order to fight this. So
now again, no judge, no jury, no conviction. And you weren't adjudicated as mentally ill. Just some little control freak at a doctor's office because you wouldn't let them cut your throat open and shove tubes down you. And, who knows, shove up what other places. Now the little trendies have taken your Second Amendment. Yeah, well, they've done that, and oh man, it's probably more than I can handle by myself. I mean, listen, we're going to get you back on in the next few days on the big, weekday show. But this one's big as well. But the weekday show's got about twice as many listeners. So let me just say this now: give people your YouTube channel, email address for folks that want to help you, constitutional lawyers, people that want to, support you in other ways. You got a lot of fans out there, brother, and they're the ones that are mentally ill. The people that want your guns are the bad guys. Your fans and you and me, we're the people that aren't crazy. We're the real Americans with these body snatcher, New World Order commies telling us that we're bad. So tell folks your contact info. Okay, I am DSarti1, first initial, last name, and the numeral 1 at YouTube. That's my YouTube channel, and my Hotmail is davidsarti@hotmail.com. I sent through Skype a link that I made up for a donate link to the legal thing. Something you did say that needs to be done. Anybody that has a case similar to mine needs to contact the Gun Owners of America because they said that this is something that they have documented happening before. So they need. Wait. Gun owners is saying they have documented or they haven't? They have. Apparently this is an abuse of power that they may. No. This happens all the time. This is millions. Mm-hmm. Now, is that an Al-Qaeda operative in the background? Because if a dog barks, that's a sign of evil as well. Perhaps that dog should be put on Prozac or have its teeth taken away. It's Second Amendment. Well, they're looking toward the front gate, so they may be giving me an alarm that the goon squad is out there. But, yeah. You mean our government owners? David, I want you back on for an hour this week. This is a big issue. God bless you. Thanks for coming on, and we're in your corner. All right, thanks. You bet. Jim Mars, everybody's